So before I start this video, I just want to give a quick shout out to both my Twitch channel and my Discord server, link to both of them in the description down below. Now, over on Twitch, I've been streaming pretty much every single day, trying to kind of document my climb to Challenger, and on my Discord server will be the perfect opportunity for you guys to interact with me outside of my streams or outside of YouTube. If any questions, just want to talk to me, get involved with my community, that'll be the perfect way to do so. But without further ado, let's get right into the video. Hello everybody. Alright, welcome to the Shaco guide. Ladies and gentlemen, I am currently 410 OP in Grandmaster on the EOS server, trying to push for Challenger next week, so stay tuned. Now, let's get right into the runes. Now, I have changed my runes, at least for AP Shaco, ever since the last guide. So AD Shaco is pretty much still the same. We go Hail of Blade, Sudden Impact, Eyeball Collection, and Relentless Hunter, with Futures Market, Approach Velocity, and then the attack speed, the adaptive force, and the defense or the armor rune. Now, if you want to know the reasoning, again, in the comment section down below. Now, for AP though, this is what I run now. This is a lot different from what I used to run, and let me explain why. So, I had a talk with somebody called VigerV2, and we were talking about the most, optimal, most efficient AP Shaco build, and he did have solid points about why this build, which I'm going to go over later in this rune page, is the best. Now, Dark Harvest shouldn't be a big surprise. Cheap Shot, obviously, because it deals more damage in theory. If you check the rune stats after each game, this will have more damage than Sudden Impact on average. But yeah, I still prefer taking it on 80. Ultimate Hunter is really broken because, well, lower ult cooldown makes it a lot easier to make those insane plays. The 5-man clone explosions, and it's really easy to turn games around. Now, Cosmic Insight for 45% CDR, which is really, really broken. You're gonna have your boxes on about 8-second cooldown, and being able to spam boxes on AP is really, really crucial. Now, Magical Footwear is good because you get, well, free boots. You don't really need to build them anyways, at least early on. So getting them for free is really nice. You can go Stopwatch, but I wouldn't usually recommend going Zhonya's, but more about that later. You could also go Futures Market if you really want that, Futures Market effect you have from AD, but again, I would usually recommend Cosmic Insight and Magical Footwear. This is also really crucial, the 10% scaling CDR in the mini runes. Now, if we do the math, and we can do that real quick, we have 10% on level 18 from this, we have the 5% from this, and then we get 30% more from items, which is Runic Echoes and GOP. This allows us to get 45% CDR with only 2 CDR items, which is crazy. This allows us to go for other items, which I'm going to talk about later, that are really, really broken at the current time. But yeah, let's go right into the build. Okay, so the build. Let's start with AD Shaco. Now, the starting items are the same as always. You go Hunter's Talisman and you go Rejuvenation Bead. This allows us to get the faster Tiamat, and Hunter's Talisman is really, really good for the early game mana sustain, and since our boxes have AoE damage now, it's really easy to proc it. Now, the first item you want to rush is obviously Tiamat. This increases your clear speed, gives you some pretty good dueling power, and it's just a great overall item. After that, you obviously try to get a pair of boots if you can. This allows you to have a lot more early game pressure, especially in combination with Relentless Hunter. This is really, really strong. Then you finish those boots into Berserker Greaves. In 99% of the cases, I wouldn't recommend going the tanky variants of the boots, aka Ninja Tabis or Merc Treads, because you're an assassin and you shouldn't ever try to survive in the first place. You should only look to kill. Now, after that, 100% of the time, always Duskblade. It's just the best item on Shaco. There's no doubt in my mind that this item will always be the best item for Shaco, unless they change it again. But yeah, definitely rush this afterwards. Now, unlike last time, I do now rush Infinity Edge over Essence Reaver. I value the extra damage a little bit more than having the 20% CDR. But after you go Infinity Edge, you do build Essence Reaver just to get that extra CDR, the extra crit chance, and the extra damage. Really, really nice. Sometimes, in situational games where the enemy team has a lot of armor, you can build LDR in between. Keep in mind you're going to be stuck on 10% CDR, which can be annoying to some people. I personally don't mind, but it's up to you. Now, situational items, Titanic Hydra is really good to finish as like your last item, or Ravenous Hydra. This one is a lot more burst. This one also gives you some decent split pushing and sustain, so it depends on what you need, obviously. Phantom Dancer is also really great. You can build this after Essence Reaver. This gives you a huge shield, huge survivability, and also extra attack speed and crit chance, which is pretty nice for assassinating people. Storm Razor is a good item that you can substitute with Essence Reaver if you want to. Usually you can just build it afterwards. If you really have to just kamikaze style run in, kill somebody, and trade your life for the enemy squishy's life, then this is a really good item in substitution for Essence Reaver. Otherwise you can just build it afterwards and be fine. Mortal Reminder and LDR obviously if you need Armor Pen, as I said. Mortal Reminder if they have a lot of healing, and this one just for the flat, or not flat, but the percentage Armor Pen. GA is also pretty nice. Can build as a defensive option, especially if you're really fed and the enemy team is very AD heavy. And Blade of the Ruined King is also a really good item that a lot of people are sleeping on. The thing is, it's kind of situational. You can build this into like 3 tanks and still go Assassin, and you will be dealing a lot of damage to those tanks. So this item is really good. And this is what a full build could look like. Now let's head right into AP. So for AP, the same start, except we do take the refillable potion because we don't need the fast Tiamat, obviously. For your first back, you want to try and aim for the Stalker Blade or the Blue Smite, boots, or actually we can buy boots because we have magical footwear, or Dark Seal. So this is usually what I go for. If you can get an M Tome, then definitely get an M Tome. But Dark Seal is really good because it allows you to really snowball games a lot harder, especially if you upgrade it into Magi's later on if you're confident enough. But yeah, obviously the item you rush is Runic Echoes. This boosts your clear speed. This also gives you a lot of E damage, a lot of poke damage, and just a great overall item. Now you want to go Sorcerer Shoes. You don't want to go the CDR boots, especially because we already have 45% with the runes and the build that I'm running. So the Sorcery Shoes are really good because of the Magic Pen. It's just a lot better. Just take these. Now this is where you have to kind of decide what you want to do. In 99% of the games you just go for GOP here, which means finishing this, getting your 40% or 45% in this case of CDR, and enjoying life. This item is really broken. The stats are actually insane. 80 AP is crazy, 600 mana is super nice, then the 10% CDR plus the 10% extra CDR you get from the unique passive called Haste. And then the active. This is kind of inferior to Protobelt, at least the active is. The stats are just too good though to not take this item in my opinion. I know I used to love Protobelt and I still do love Protobelt. I think it's easier to hyper carry with Protobelt, but this item is just a lot more reliable and a lot more solid than Protobelt overall. Now after this is where it gets interesting. You have different things you can do. What I like to do sometimes is, especially if I'm the only AP in my team, I like to go a Oblivion Orb in between. This gives you 15% or 15 magic penetration on top of the already 18 you have, which in most cases allows you to deal pretty much true damage, which means if somebody walks into your box, you slow them with GOP, you throw a Shiv, they're likely gonna die, or at least be very low. And your Clone Explosion is also gonna deal a shit ton of damage. So a lot of people are sleeping on this item. It's very situational, but if you can build it, you definitely should. Now, obviously you can finish this into Morello's later on, or right away if you need the healing reduction. Usually not worth it though, unless you really need the healing reduction, which most of the time your team should have as like on AD carry or on your top laner or your mid laner. But yeah, you can definitely build this. Now this is the most broken item though. Liandry's is insanely broken. This item, once you have this and GOP, it's over. This item deals so much damage, it's crazy. It gives you a little bit of tankiness, decent amount of AP, it gives you the insane burn damage, which is amplified if the enemy team or the enemy target is CC'd. So this is really good. You also get more damage depending on how long you are in combat. So 10% max, but still 10% more damage is 10% more damage, right? Now after this you have a couple of options. You can either go Rabadons, you can go Void Staff. I usually wouldn't recommend Nashers because you're going to be overcapping on CDR. But you can go Zonies if you want to. I would usually recommend if we're talking about a full build, this is what I would do usually. Void Staff is really, really good if you're trying to shred enemy magic resist, which they're usually going to build. If they don't have magic resist, you're going to be having a Oblivion Orb instead of the Void Staff, obviously. But the build doesn't really change that much anyways. This is usually what a full build looks like. I usually have Void Staff instead of Oblivion Orb. And I would say that is about it. Again, Zhonya's is okay. You're going to be overcapping though, and usually on AP you should need Zhonya's in the first place. It's a very safe and control magey playstyle. You have a lot of tools to not die, so you shouldn't ever die in a team fight. So Zhonya's isn't really needed. Same with Banshees. The shield is nice, and it's nice to have it, but in theory you shouldn't need the shield. Again, if the enemy team is maybe super magic damage heavy, it's viable, but you know, having more damage is better in most cases because you have such a safe playstyle. But apart from that, I think that is it for the AP build. So in terms of skill order, this is also something that has actually changed. Now on 80, it's still the same. You want to max E into Q into W and R whenever possible. But on AP, now I usually get 3 points into W, then max E, then max W, and then max Q, and obviously R whenever possible. Now, why do I max W all of a sudden, or at least get 3 points into it? It just has such a good clear. You can also do 5 points. I usually like 3 points more because I get my E points in earlier, which means I can start poking and start dealing damage with my E a lot earlier than with 5 points into W. But this just comes down to personal preference. I would recommend 3 points. If you feel like you want that extra bit of, clear, then do 5 points. But for me, 3 points are enough. So, the bot side clear. Now, the Shaco clear hasn't really changed ever since 9.21, so this shouldn't be a big surprise to most people. Now, the first thing you want to make sure is you want to place a box at the latest 34 seconds to cover one of the entrances. Try to make sure your team covers the other entrance, because if you get invaded, it's really fucked, and you're really, really screwed for the rest of the game. Now, the box placement, as you can see in the video, is very simple. It does need maybe 1 or 2 practice rounds, so you can get this down perfectly, but this is really not that hard. Now, 2 boxes onto the Wraith camp, 1 box obviously onto the red camp. Again, the position, I'm trying to ping it out here. Now, on the chicken camp, you really only have to backstab the big chicken. That is not that hard. Sometimes the chickens survive with like a slither of HP, so you have to auto-attack them once. It's sadly a bug, there's nothing I can do about it, there's no clear that fixes this. But that shouldn't be too big of a problem because it only happens rarely. Now you obviously queue over to the red buff, you place a box behind it, and then kill it. Now for the Krug camp, you want to make sure to always focus the big Krug first. Obviously get backstabs in whenever possible. And then you kind of leave the camp while your box is still clearing those mini Krugs. You don't actually need to clear all of them, you only need to clear 1, but your box usually clears all of them. Now here this is very crucial, you want to make sure to always only attack the big wolf. Only attack the small wolf, or the small wolves, once the big wolf is dead. Make sure to get a backstab in, and they will die with only 1 auto attack, and you can leave and already go to blue buff camp. Now the blue buff is really simple, you place a box down, and you just kept, as many backstabs as possible. Afterwards, you go for Scuttle Crab, and you're chilling. Okay, so pretty much the same thing on this side, just the box placement is a little bit different. Now again, make sure box latest 34 seconds to cover the entrance. Make sure to always have the other entrance covered as well, because if not, again, you will be screwed for the rest of the game. Now the box placement here is not as tight as on the other side, so this might not need too much practice, but again, I would still do like 1 or 2 practice rounds just to really get the feeling for it, honestly. Again, 2 boxes on chickens, 1 box on red buff. Keep backstabbing the chickens because the small ones die from the box AoE. Then you queue over to the red buff camp, place a box behind it, keep backstabbing it. If you do it right, this will be a 4-second chain CC, because the first box fears you into the second box. Then you queue over to Grump camp, obviously always focus the big one first, smite it as well, then once it's about to die you can switch to the medium Krug, and then again just leave your box here, have your box clear the rest of the camp. This is really, really free. Then again, over to the wolf camp, still on a pretty good timing honestly. Place a box behind it, keep backstabbing the big wolf, don't attack the small ones yet, just wait for the big one to die, then 1 backstab each, and you're good to go. Now on the blue buff, again, really, really simple, just a box, and keep backstabbing as much as possible. That's really all about backstabbing when playing Shaco jungle. And then you're good to go, and Scuttle Crab is up.